Hey everyone, what's going on? Jeff here from Films at Home, and today we're going to be diving into a 4K review of Arrow Video's latest release, 12 Monkeys on 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray. Now, I took my time on this review because there actually were some quality issues with it that I will talk about and address because there was a bit of a slip up with the transfer. But in this review, we're going to review the video quality and talk about the 4K upgrade, compare it to previous Arrow Video Blu-ray and Universal Blu-ray releases, and also talk about the audio, special features, and packaging, and ultimately whether or not you should be picking this one up for your collection. So we're going to kick things off here by talking about the visuals, and 12 Monkeys was shot on 35mm, so it is a pretty grainy presentation. You've definitely got that film grain there from that 35mm transfer. This was a brand new 4K restoration, but it was actually done back in 2018 originally for Arrow Video's first Blu-ray, and now this 2022 version, all they really did was recolor graded for HDR and specifically Dolby Vision. Now, if you compare Arrow's Blu-ray release, 1080p that they put out a few years ago, to Universal's 1080p Blu-ray, you're going to see that there was already a huge improvement even before we got to 4K and HDR. The Universal Blu-ray, honestly, not one of the best. Wasn't one of my favorite Blu-rays. It's pretty poor. It looks sort of like a DVD quality transfer. It's not very well done. And Arrow did a great job when they rescanned this in 4K. The detail takes a nice step forward, but they also played with the color grading a little bit, all supervised by the director Terry Gilliam. Now, the issue with 12 Monkeys overall is that this is a very ugly movie. It looks cool, but it was shot intentionally sort of rough. The flashback sequences are totally blown out. The contrast and brightness is all over the place. It's super gritty. There's a sort of like filter over the top of everything, which makes it even hazier and will sort of accentuate the grain within the image. So if you're expecting a real pretty clean digital 4K image here, you're not going to get it. You're getting film grain, but then you're also getting all those stylistic choices on top of it, which make it a kind of ugly looking movie purposely. Now, detail wise, resolution, the 4K scan looks great. There's a ton of added detail. It really does help resolve some of the super graininess that you saw on the old Blu-ray release. It looks a lot better, so that was fine. That upgrade looked good. I think they did a good job. My issue with this 4K release was some of the color grading because I think they screwed with the original vision. Now, Terry Gilliam supposedly, supervised and approved this. And of course, did he watch the whole movie? Did he watch 5 scenes and say that looks okay? Who knows? But in particular, like the flashback sequence in the airport, that one is supposed to be blown out. Like, that is supposed to be really bright and blown out. It's sort of this flashback style. And they kind of lost that with HDR and Dolby Vision. It almost like corrected it, but by correcting the color, it almost removed the intended effect and made it feel different as a movie. So there were a few instances like that where I didn't love the HDR, and for that reason, I almost think I prefer the Arrow Video Blu-ray to the Arrow Video 4K. I don't know, it's tough because the color grading I prefer on the Blu-ray, but obviously the detail and the quality of the 4K restoration it takes it to another level in native 4K. So I'm sort of going back and forth. I'm having an internal fight with like the faithful movie lover inside of me who wants things to maintain their original look and feel, and the person who loves 4K and loves to see these movies cleaned up and made to look really great. And there are a ton of great instances of HDR usage here on the 4K disc, don't get me wrong. But there are a few instances where I said, wow, I don't love what they did there. So it's tough. Personally, I think I would stick with the 4K. If I really think about it, I'd go with the 4K. I'd take the HDR and I would deal with those couple of scenes that I didn't love the color grading on. But I think either way, you definitely need one of the Arrow Video versions. Now, the interesting thing with this 4K release, and this actually affects the previous Blu-ray, but apparently nobody caught it at the time, is that there is a little bit of an issue. About 41 minutes into the movie, there is a scene that is doubled. It sort of loops. The soundtrack doesn't change. Nothing gets changed there, so it's actually not that noticeable, but a scene does sort of repeat. And this was from the original 4K scan. So this back in 2018 was an issue. I guess it didn't really get called out or didn't catch Arrow's attention. And then in 2022, when they redid it, They kept that same scan and it had the same issue, and then somebody did point it out at that point in time. Now, they've acknowledged it, but they haven't announced any replacement discs yet, so I don't know how they're going to handle it, and honestly, you may want to hold off until they decide to either fix it or just live with it. But it also goes to show that maybe the filmmaker supervision and approval here wasn't all that in depth if nobody caught it. People make mistakes, humans make mistakes, and Arrow said, it went through our team, our quality, it went through the filmmaker, we all approved it, we all missed it, c'est la vie, it's their fault. They apologize for it. But something to note, because you may want to wait for a disc replacement program or just keep an eye on that. But it affects the Blu-ray and 4K. So either way, if you buy 12 Monkeys from Arrow Video, it's going to have the same problem. So it shouldn't affect purchasing which one. But you should note they're probably not going to fix the Blu-ray release. So if you want the corrected version, your only hope is probably to get a corrected 4K. I will say it's a minor issue, though. I think a lot of people are kind of blowing this up and blowing it out of proportion. Super, super minor issue. It really doesn't affect much, and if you've never seen the movie before, there's a good chance you probably wouldn't have even noticed it unless you were a hardcore fan. So it didn't really bother me as much as some of the other quality issues that have come out lately, but still is something that you obviously need to know in a review. Now, the audio here is the same audio that was available on the Arrow Video Blu-ray. It's a 5.1 track from Universal Studios. That one's pretty good. Has some decent surround. It's not the most robust track. It's not going to blow your speakers away. It doesn't have the most surround action that I've ever heard. But there is also an LPCM stereo track, 2-channel track, which I think sort of works better in some cases. 12 Monkeys was developed for 5.1, but it's very interesting how different the two audio tracks are. So I guess it's going to depend on how strong your front speakers are versus your surrounds and, what your personal preference is. But, if you have a sound bar or a 2.0 system, you'll actually get a decent experience with that. And if you have the surround, I could see you flipping back and forth because sometimes dialogue and stuff wasn't mixed the best on the surround, and it was almost a little bit clearer on the 2.0. It was, maybe that's just me feeling that too. I have a pretty strong center and front speakers versus surrounds, but I don't know. You'd have to go back. It's going to be personal preference on that one. Now, the packaging is pretty standard stuff here as well. If you bought the previous Arrow Video release, you're getting the same sort of artwork here with the slipcover. You got the 4K on the inside in the black case, and then you've just got the 4K disc with some disc art. There is also a booklet which has an essay on the movie. It has an interview with Terry Gilliam, and it has some notes on the restoration. And then on top of that, you do get the special features. So there's an audio commentary with Terry Gilliam and producer Charles Roven. There's The Hamster Factor and Other Tales of 12 Monkeys, which is a feature-length documentary. Terry Gilliam has had a really interesting history. That's a good documentary about his movies. The Film Exchange with Terry Gilliam, which is an interview with him. You've got some 12 Monkeys archives, theatrical trailer, and then of course the reversible sleeve on this release as well, which will have the original theatrical artwork. So overall, I think I am a fan of the 4K. I can deal with a couple of scenes being color corrected in HDR because it does enhance the rest of the movie. It makes it look a lot better, and the true 4K resolution is a standout piece of this release. It really enhances the detail and the quality of what was already a pretty rough looking movie. 4K takes that to the next level and definitely makes it look probably as good as this movie ever could look. Now, some of you out there, I'm sure, may want to stick with the Blu-ray, but if you have the Universal Pictures Blu-ray, I think no matter what, you need to upgrade to Arrow Video. Now, the only issue with that, and this becomes confusing, is whether or not they will replace the disc in the Blu-ray release from 2018 or only in the 4K. So if you buy the Arrow Video Blu-ray at this point, you may be locked in to this version of the movie that has that error about 41 minutes in. If you buy the 4K, there's no news yet, but there's a chance the disc could actually be replaced. So I'm going to leave a link in the description to both this 4K release and the Arrow Video Blu-ray. You guys make your decision. Personally, I'm going with the 4K because I'm always going to take the highest quality, and I'm not so concerned about the way that those flashback scenes looked when I really think about it. It's a change, it's a definite change, but if that's what Terry Gilliam approved and that's what everybody approved on the team, who am I to tell them that that isn't how they originally wanted something to look? And without HDR color, they couldn't get it right, and now they have it the way they want it. As far as I'm concerned, if they've approved it, then this is an approved version. Although I do tend to disagree with directors and filmmakers sometimes on edits they've made to the movie. In this case, I think I'm going to roll with it and go with the 4K. But both links will be down in the description if you want to pick this up. So I appreciate you watching. This one was a little confusing to do. It's a little tough to do because there's still a lot of unknowns. We don't know if there's disc replacement. I don't truly know whether this HDR was intended, if Terry Gilliam actually took a look at it, if this was the way that he wanted those scenes to look. It's a kind of confusing one, but I think as long as you stick with Arrow Video 4K, you're going to be happy. You definitely won't be disappointed. And if you're sitting on an old DVD or old Universal Blu-ray copy, it's time to upgrade. Those are trash. You can throw them out, and now it's time to go to the big boys over at Arrow Video for their great restoration. Thanks for watching. Again, links in the description if you want to pick these up, but also links down there to my podcast, and all my social media links are there as well. So make sure you follow us, and make sure you subscribe to the channel and like this video so others will see it, and we spread the word about physical media and this community, which has been great. So appreciate you all. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Stay safe, stay healthy out there, and I'll talk to you soon.